Hello, and welcome to the Why Not Today podcast. My name is Leslie. I'm the host of this Why Not Today podcast. And I started this podcast in honor of my father, who often said, Why not today? And we talk to people that have been courageous, had courageous stories, and found, there's lots of courage out there and lots of stories behind the stories. So I started this podcast 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago. And I thought today, instead of having a guest, I would share kind of the history. There's some new changes coming with the podcast. So I figured what a perfect time to share just what's going on with the podcast, a little history. So those of you who have not listened to the initial episode, I figured I'd give you the kind of the history of the podcast. So years ago, I just had the thought in my mind that I want to do a podcast. No idea what I want to talk about. And no idea how to do it, but I thought, maybe I'd do it someday. And I was talking to my friend Bianca, and she's like, you should. Well, fast forward, I didn't do anything with it. And then my dad was kind of a character. I don't know if you can see it. I have a tattoo, and that's his tattoo, and that's the logo. He had an eye patch and a handlebar mustache. And so one day I was on social media, and some gentleman posted a post that he'd had some surgery. He was wearing an eye patch, and every day he looked in the mirror, he thought of his old friend Pat Kane, which was my dad. And he talked about all the great things my dad did. And he said, and we both said, why not today? Well, I don't remember my dad exactly saying those words. I know he was definitely a positive man, and he always found a solution. And, he encouraged us to just do things. And so that just stuck with me. And I again had a conversation with Bianca, and I was telling her that story. And she goes, well, that's the name of your podcast, and just do it. So, of course, you're not going to do things immediately because we have that fear going on, not enough courage. So I came up with a logo. I did some fun cups for my family for Christmas, and then decided to just do it. And my dad passed away in Pat Kane style on his birthday, which was February 5th. So my first episode was Saturday, February 5th, 2022. And I literally recorded the first episode around 3 o'clock the day before. And because I was scared, but I did it anyway. And so this podcast has evolved in almost 2 years. I still have not edited one episode. And one of the reasons I haven't is that part of the message of Why Not Today is just do it, and it doesn't need to be perfect. And this is not perfect. And it is just a place to have a conversation with a friend and hear stories. And I hope you feel like when you come to this podcast that you are having a conversation with a friend. And I've met so many amazing people, and it's fun that people are referring people to me. We started with this podcast every other week, and started with just people I knew, people that started businesses, started nonprofits, left corporate America, started working for a nonprofit, had a friend that was addicted to opioids, or oxy, I guess. I don't know if they're the same thing, and got clean. And we shared her story. I had a musician share his story, how he's living in his van and an alcoholic, and turned that around. So lots of different stories, but it started evolving, and I started feeling a common theme about things that really generally more women, but in general, subjects we needed a little courage for, and things that, more mature people, though I've had people all ages on the podcast and listening to the podcast. But, what's next is kind of a message I've heard. I feel like, yeah, there's just a little unsettling. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. So I've interviewed all kinds of cool people. As I said, we started bi-weekly, starting January of 2024. We went to every week because I had so many people that I could interview. And I have a whiteboard with a list of future guests and people referring to me. And I'm meeting the most amazing people, making amazing friends. And so as we started 2024, my goal is to have themes every month. And whether you hear it out loud or not, the themes are kind of the underlying part of the podcast. So January of 2024 was Why Not Today Be Intentional? And so we've had some great guests, and I thought what I'm going to do from here on out is have a theme and have different guests, and then have me at least one of the weeks during the month to share things I've learned or some education or things I'm hearing and I feel like people need to hear more about. So with the podcast and having lots of brainstorming conversations with friends and people, I've kind of felt this theme coming and kind of an unsettling with people. And what's next? And people my age are looking at retirement, or they've been at a job a long time, or they're empty nesters, or gone through some life, and it's just what's next. So somebody I know, a friend of mine, Amy Kemp, just wrote a book, and she'll be the next episode. It's called I See You. And in her book, this just really spoke to me. And I saved the page and I'm not going to find it. Hold on. All right. So what she said, and this resonated with me, says, I constantly found myself having deep, meaningful conversations with women who were leading businesses, organizations in our community. These conversations were full of similar themes: isolation, self doubt, exhaustion, frustration, and overwhelm at the demands of work and home responsibilities. I knew that if I could somehow gather these women together, they would see that they were not alone, and within the context of a small, safe community, they could all grow together. And I have found the same thing. There's unsettling out there, as I mentioned. People are ready to gather. We've had some tough years, and we've had some isolation, and it's been easy to be comfortable in our homes and not get out and not meet people and not see people. And it's time. I know for me, I'm literally we had snow last week. It's 70 degrees today, but I drew a line in the snow and I walked over it. I'm like, okay, it's time to get out in the world again. And it's time to share this message and to connect with women in a different way. So we are missing connections and community. People are looking to make new friends. People are lonely. And you know what? We want to be around like-minded people. Don't you love the energy when you have coffee or lunch with somebody, or even a phone call with somebody that's your people, and you just walk out of there just energized and ready to take on the world? And so I really want to be able to build that and create some things. So we're going to do some fun things, but just to kind of recap January. So January had lots of fun guests. So it started with the first guest, basically end of 2023, beginning of 2024, was Laura Carney, and she's become a great friend. I hope she feels the same way. But she had a book called My Father's List. And her dad passed away unexpectedly by a distracted driver at 24. And several years later, she found his bucket list, and she did the bucket list and wrote a book about it. And so her story, and what we talked about on the podcast, was her story of bravery to face that fear and face that story and to do her dad's bucket list, which was scary, but then to share through doing the bucket list, it took some healing and therapy. And she talked a lot about that in the podcast. And then I had Stacy, and she's from Texas, and it was kind of a weird coincidence. I don't even know how I connected with her. But her and I always talk about in the podcast the connection to my dad. And her sister-in-law lives here in the same town I do, in Reston, and was actually my father's dentist, and saw him, ironically, the day he passed away. He went to the dentist. Kind of weird. But Stacy talked about a book that she wrote, and it was about living your life with intention. And she travels a lot and had a travel journal when she was a young girl, and wrote about that in the book, and living your life with intention. She left corporate America, is working as a coach. And so that theme of intentionships keeps coming forward. And then I had Andrea share about vision boards. And that is a lot to do with intentions. Do you have a vision board? I know mine's old. I need to update it. I know we talked about it, but I haven't had a chance yet. But do you know what you want in your life? Are you living with intention or just letting it happen? I think the last few years, we've been in survival mode and just trying to create some what we call new normals. But now let's dream again. What do you want to do? Where do you want your life to take you? Do you love to travel? Do you want to buy a new house? Is redecorating your thing? What are the things that fill your heart and get you excited and give you energy? So we talked a lot about vision boards. And then we wrapped up the month with my friend Mina. And Mina, oops, sorry, I thought my phone was off. Mina shared about an adventure she went on, and it was in fall of 2019. She just having dinner with her husband one day and said, I want to drive cross country. And she left by herself and drove cross country for 2 months and had an adventure. At first, she thought, I'm going to go and work and interview people. She's in design and construction. She was going to interview people, but that didn't happen very much. I think she interviewed one person, but she made it be a healing journey and was able to dig deep and be alone and really figure out what she wanted. And isn't that something we all need, is that quiet time? I was talking to a friend of mine, Julia, today, who's retired and busier than anybody I know, and talking about we need to give ourselves space to think and be quiet and fill our cup. And so those were kind of the themes for the month of January, or the podcast episodes and the stories. And it's kind of the thing I keep feeling and keep hearing, and I've trained about this so many times, is we need to fill our cup. And so as women and people and mothers and caregivers and all these things we're doing, we're giving ourselves a lot. And what are we doing to fill our own cup? So whether it's taking time to just escape, I know for me, one of the things I do and I have done in the past, and I'm doing again in 2024, is a toes in the sand tour. And this is, I love to travel, but I really travel and escape to stop working because I love to work. I don't know about you guys. If you're a workaholic like I am, I can work all the time, especially if you own your own business. And so my toes in the sand tour, and as you can see in the background, I am a beach girl through and through, but every month being deliberate and intentional to go somewhere near water and be able to escape and just take some time for me and to think and to plan and to fill my cup. And so what do you do to fill your cup and take that time? You don't necessarily need to toes in the sand tour, but carving out time for you. And it's the little things, and it's treating ourselves and loving on ourselves. And sometimes it's just drinking a cup of coffee out of a fancy coffee mug. My mother is recently been cleaning out some of the things in her house, and she found my grandmother's teacups, which are beautiful. And you know what? I have a couple of those now that I can drink tea in and just give myself a little treat. So fill your cup up. What are you doing to do that? And then the other message, my brain just doesn't stop if you can't tell. The other message and book that I have taught on and quoted for years and actually gave it away, which I really rarely let people borrow my books because they don't come back. And this one didn't. And as a book that's been around for years from Susan Jeffers, it's called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. So I grabbed this book, ordered it the other day, been listening to the audio, and oh my gosh, there's so many great nuggets. But everybody does things scared. And we all need to be brave and just do the things. And if you're growing and maturing and bettering yourself, you're going to have things you're going to be fearful of, and you just need to do it. So I started the new year with the word brave is my word of the year. And so I feel like with the Why Not Today message and brand that I really want to be brave in taking this to other people and sharing it. So my first brave thing I did is January 2nd, 2024, I started an LLC. And although I've run a Mary Kay business for 29 years, Mary Kay set it all up. And so I'm being brave and learning new things. So I have my EIN number. I signed up for a business banking account. So I'm figuring out all the things for having my own business. And with the Why Not Today brand, of course, we're going to keep the podcast going weekly with different themes, have some ideas of working with some nonprofits, really spreading the word. My vision for Why Not Today is like life is good. Like people are saying and quoting. I have a friend of mine, John Gonzalez, that follows the podcast and is constantly commenting on my social media posts with hashtag Why Not Today. And so I hope people, I have people sending me pictures of license plates or a name tag, and it reminded them of me and the brand. And so I want people to think, why not today, and be brave. So we're going to have some different themes, as I said. So what's next? February is, of course, is Valentine's Day. People love it or hate it, but we need to love ourselves. So my theme for February would be why not today, love ourselves. And so I have Amy Kemp talking about I See You in her book. I have another new friend of mine, Melanie Brooks. She's wrote 2 books. One is Writing Hard Stories, and then a book, I don't know the exact title but she wrote a book about her dad that got AIDS when he had surgery in the 80s, and they had to keep it a secret because they didn't think he was going to live long, but he lived for 10 years. So she shares that story of those 2 books. I've got a couple other people lined up for February. And then March, we will celebrate our second anniversary of this podcast. So I haven't talked to her about it yet, but I'm really thinking I need to have my mom as my guest for the podcast in March. It's also a monumental month because I hit one of those I'm going to say one of those 0 birthdays. And I think I just slipped what it was, but lots of exciting things happening. So what else? What else am I doing? As I said, my brain just doesn't stop moving. And so the other ideas is, as I said, people want to gather, connect, build community, and um, make new friends and be around like-minded people. So I started the Why Not Today Connects, and that is a luncheon that I've started. We did the first one yesterday, and we had several ladies there. Now, although it's open for men and women, we hopefully men will start joining us. But it was a great opportunity for people just to meet some new friends, make some new connections. I did have everybody introduce themselves, and they could tell their business, but not what they did. And we talked about everybody's themes for the year. We had lots of people. Their themes and words were growth. One person, actually my sister Alicia, her word was fun. She's raised kids and she's an empty nester and she wants to have fun in her life. And I saw she went to a basketball game last night. She's having fun. And so the lots of cool words, perseverance. Can't remember all the words, but do you have your word? Are you working intentionally? So we're going to do the Why Not Connects lunch in Northern Virginia if you're local, the fourth Thursday of the month. But if you're listening somewhere else and you're like, I want a luncheon like that, well, you know what? I would love to take this Why Not Today Connects lunch and do it all over the country. Looking at maybe doing some co-working events. Those of us that work for ourselves, it's always good to get out of our house. The last couple of weeks have been really cold. We had snow, and I find myself when it's cold and snowy, I don't want to leave the house, and I don't, and I'm not very motivated and inspired. And the other day I just had to get out of the house and meet with a friend just to get out of the house. And so looking at maybe doing some co-working events where we'll gather, bring our own work, but if you have an idea or you want to run something by somebody or just be in the energy of like-minded people. I also looking at doing some retreats. I am partnering with, I'm not going to divulge the secret yet, but a really powerful person I know in this area. And we're looking at doing some retreats that we will schedule the whole thing and you just show up. Maybe having some chefs, some craft cocktails being made, just some fun things, yoga, just some fun getting to know you activities, but just time to fill our cup. And then finally, looking at some courses. I'm really thinking about doing an online course around the book, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. So if that's something that interests you, let me know. Maybe some group or individual coaching. I've been doing coaching for 29 years and would love to be able to help people to find out what's next and be courageous to say, why not today? So a friend of mine, Selena Ashley, I think is her company. She does really cool writing, and she did my word brave and sent me the sticker, but she sent me a cool postcard, and I love this. It says, she was never quite ready, but she was brave, and the universe listens to brave. And how true is that? And so what can we do to be courageous and brave? What can you do to say, why not today? Sometimes, guys, it is getting out of bed for some people. Luckily, I don't suffer from that one very often. But it's doing the things when you're scared and just what is in your heart of hearts? What gives you joy? What do you talk about with people and just like, I want to do that. I'm super excited about that. So there's lots of exciting things happening with Why Not today. I am super excited, as you can tell, and where this is going. And I have no idea where God's taking me in this journey, but I'm just putting one step in front of the other. I'm meeting amazing people. People are connecting me. If you're listening to this and you know somebody that has a great story, and you know what I'm finding? People have a story behind the story. So if you know somebody you think would be a great guest, if you know somebody that should be listening to this podcast, share it with them. Please review it, like it, share it, subscribe to it. Also, the other thing I've started is a Facebook group called the Why Not Today community, where we're going to share some stuff. Like I've been sharing your favorite podcast, your favorite book. I'm going to do some giveaways. I think we're at 75 members. Once we hit 100, I'm going to have a giveaway. And then, of course, I mentioned I have swag, and I should have it out here to show it if you're watching this. But I have Why Not Today t-shirts, short sleeves, women V-neck, because you guys, I like a V-neck t-shirt. I have long sleeve shirts. I have cups. I have coffee cups. Like start your day with a coffee cup that says why not today to remind you to start your day in a positive way. So lots of exciting things happening. I can't wait to continue this journey with you guys. I appreciate everybody that's listened to it, everybody shared. It's kind of a heartfelt moment when you run into somebody and like, oh, I've been listening to your podcast. I'm like, you have? And when new people that I don't know are listening or connecting or joining the community, that's fun. So follow us on Instagram, Facebook, go to the website, which is www.whynottodaypodcast.com. Share this with a friend. And let's start a movement of being courageous and set, and what are you doing today to say, why not today? So thanks again for listening and letting me talk today, and share in the comments, what is your why not today, or what was your aha today? So again, it's Leslie with the Why Not Today podcast. Thank you for listening or watching. And remember, always say, why not today? And until next time, bye.